Hey guys, welcome to the Silver Report. Here we are, it's Saturday, February 18th, 2017. We have gold currently trading at $1,236.30, silver $18.08, and let's get into some of the economic news that will be playing a factor. Now we have some big news over here at the G20 summit. We have China coming out, and of course they're pushing for open economies. The Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi told a G20 meeting in Bonn, Germany on Thursday that Beijing wants to see an open world economy system and said his country stresses multilateralism and globalization. So this was his plea, saying that China is willing to work with the elite. China is willing to work with the globalists. He sees this recent rise to power by Donald Trump as somehow a threat to his country's rising stronghold that they're developing. So he called on his German hosts to work with China to promote global rebalancing and safeguard trade and investment liberalization and facilitation. He said such efforts would ensure continued global economic growth. During his meeting with the EU foreign policy chief, Frederica, that China and Europe should work together on global security and trade. So he's calling on EU partners, saying they need to continue to promote global rebalancing, because that's what we've been subject to since the late 90s, is global rebalancing, eliminating the sovereign power of the citizens within the United States and redistributing it on some sort of global mission. So he called on the EU to fast-track Article 15 of the Protocol on China's entry into the World Trade Organization. China became a member of the World Trade Organization in 2001, but was accused of dumping its products in other members' markets and had to adopt anti-dumping measures as stipulated by Article 15 on the Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. China had to abide by a number of trade laws and regulations before it can be classified as a market economy, and it expired in December. And so what we're seeing, that insecurity and unrest, they're spreading across the world. And it's not just Donald Trump rise to the United States presidency, but also since long accepted certainties have strongly been called into question. It's good that there's forums, is what they're saying, where sovereign states and their executive leadership can informally share information. Although in this case, informal means that no binding agreements will be made. The G20 is one such forum. That's why you see riots everywhere they go. That's why you see enhanced and increased security protecting these meetings and these groups. That's why you see uprises against these meetings. It is these globalist leaders sitting around and deciding, dictating the way your life will go. The economic woes in our countries are as a result of meetings just like this. And the subject matter of this meeting is to supersede the decisions of the elected people, regardless of what you think about Trump. Yeah, I'm still undecided, but I know this, that the policies, he was elected, he's our president, and the policies that he's seeking to pursue, the world elite are meeting to override. Germany has held the presidency and will be leading this forum through a series of ministerial conferences until the summit meeting, which will take place in July in Hamburg. So the meeting of G20 foreign ministers on Thursday and Friday in Bonn will give the process some noticeable momentum. So they want to paint this as the stage to override America's decision to come in and to protect their economy, to protect their populace, to go through and to restructure trade. Now we know that we've seen the propaganda streams from the mainstream media on a constant cycle, constantly discussing how trade tariffs will destroy the world's economies. And now one thing is for certain, you are in for a rude awakening when and if this does come to pass, because it is going to disrupt the world economy, because the world has been on the march towards globalization and the effects of trying to remove this country from the grasp of these globalist elite who seek a new world order and not independent sovereign nations will be ugly. So it's true. The precarious condition that the United States economy finds itself in right now, it will not be unaffected. We will see a dangerous times. There will be loss. It will be painful. It will be a very painful transition. But that's the same tactic they use on the European countries that seek to leave the European Union. When these global elite, they meet and they discuss how that we must make sure it's painful for Britain if they want to leave the European Union. That these countries feel the pain. And so that's what we're facing here in the United States. You think it's going to be easy? It will not be easy. We will feel the pain. So these 20 key economies, they're meeting to tackle the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on Climate. And there has to be something serious going on. And now, one thing that I just want to point out, in the video that we saw the other day, the training video for the U.S. Special Forces, it described what the world would look like by 2030. And so these world economic powers, these globalist elite, are meeting to discuss the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. The foreign ministers are not normally involved in the G20, an informal but hugely influential grouping. It usually involves the finance ministers in particular, so the money men behind the scenes. It's notable and laudable that they come together in this forum for the first time in many years. It's notable some of the topics they want to bring up to discuss, which is superseding the will of the American people. It's not clear, however, how successful this attempt is going to be. Germany chief stresses that half the countries in the G20 have different heads of state than they did when the agenda was passed in 2015. So when this was decided, when Obama was still in power, there has been a shift in policy by one or two players, and more than likely, there's going to be more. Also, oil-producing countries could easily upset the consensus. And so what we're facing, this threat to the economies, there will be a destabilizing of the world's economies attempting to recover American financial strength. This climate change discussion that they've had, how they're going to make some sort of agreement on climate, when really the main goal is to implement a world tax. A world tax would require a world governing body to collect the tax, to also implement punishment for violating the tax, to control this. This is all the trappings of creating a one world order to rule over these nations, and thus making whoever is at the top of that pyramid collecting all of those taxes extremely wealthy, because we have a world addicted to fossil fuels. So being able to tax not only gasoline, oil pumping, manufacturing, being able to tax the world would give the body, similar to these central banks, how they gain so much power, complete control over the world's economy. And from there, they develop a world military, a world police force. So this has to be ended. And just know, it will not be easy. This is a very important moment in the process of the development of the G20. It's a situation which is really critical. The pillars, this is what they're saying, of the international order are being called into question. And they're saying President Trump is not the only factor. There's also Orban, Ms. Le Pen. In 2017, we have a series of elections in Europe. And so the elite, they're scared. They're running scared. And so when you trap a wild animal in the corner, it begins to bite back. All right, thank you guys for joining me here on the Silver Report. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe, like the videos, share the videos. We have to wake the masses up. I thank you guys all so much for stopping by and for listening. And as always, stay safe.